So, my name's Clifton Robin, and I am the Worldwide Technical Marketing Manager for our ZCentral software solution products and a little bit of the hardware and a little bit of everything. And I'm really happy to be here today to talk to you all about what we've been doing for during the COVID and before, and how we're working with customers after for this work from home remote world that we live in. What I'm going to go through here is a few slides. Wanted to kind of set the groundwork, kind of set the scope and stage of what we're doing. And then I'm going to go through probably half of this will be live demos. So this will be a live demos out of servers that are in Fort Collins, Colorado. I'm also in Fort Collins, but we'll also have some folks who will connect in from, I think, Denmark. And just kind of give you a flavor of the collaboration mode so you can understand it and our enterprise class solution here. We also have a chat window, which I have up or for Q&A. And if you have any questions, then please type them and I can go ahead and look at them over here on the screen, and we'll do our best to respond to them in session. And of course, after session 2 will work. So on with the show. So the cool thing about what we're talking about is this is really about the only single source solution that's out there in terms of Workstation and having both ends of the pictures that we can create this chair, if you will, of remote access. We have our ZCentral 4R, but it can really be any PC hardware. We have our ZCentral Remote Boost. This is point-to-point software for doing enterprise class remote work, if you will. So it's all about work product. It isn't so much about, mass conferencing or having, some kind of slow, stuttery experience as you're sharing video. It's about trying to have an experience that's the same as being there. And then finally, we have ZCentral Connect, and we'll get into that a little bit, but think of that as a connection library manager that's helping as you get more and more machines that people are connecting to. You can create pools of books, if you will, that all reference books that all do the same thing, but people can check them in and out so that you can get levels of scale for what people are using or when they need different hardware or time zone shifts. So with that, let's kind of look at the software features a little bit. So we have our rack-mounted workstations, and this is, you can rack mount any workstation we have, a Z8, Z4, or Z6. You can also take our Z2 minis here, as you can see in this upper left-hand picture, and make a put 7 of them in a rack. And then you can also take this right here is our new Z4R, which is designed specifically for remote compute and to go into data closets or data centers for providing that workstation experience in a centralized location. We also, within our remote access software, we have collaboration, and that's kind of key lately. It's keeping the workflows intact. It's keeping things working the way you expect it, the way humans communicate, not interrupting that flow, and being able to have that same collaboration that you'd have if somebody could walk into the office or have a small group of engineers in a meeting room. Along with the normal multi-screen, it's just like being there support. And then with our Connect product, it's all about sharing resources, but it's also something having to do with some of the remote management. And a lot of this is leveraging what we already have or what's already available for you within our Z products and getting more mileage out of it. So it's sort of like free features that we can help bring up for you. So let's go on to the next slide. So to get started with that, it's important to think about the hardware. And one of the hardware pieces that we brought out in September of last year was our ZCentral 4R. And really what you can do is think of this as a Z4, which is a desktop. And much like you make a sword, you take a piece of metal, a hunk of metal, and you hammer it down and you stretch it out and you make it flatter. We did the same thing with the workstation and came up with this one new product. I'm not sure if the video is transmitting for you, but I will go to this screen and show you a couple of highlights here. So this is a custom built workstation that was built specifically for this. It is not a repurposed server or anything else that's been downgraded so it could pretend to be a workstation. This is an actual HP purpose-built bespoke workstation. What's cool about this, though, is because of the way we've designed it, you have to have support for mid and high-end graphics options, which we do. So you can have a double wide card or two singles in gang mode. You can also put we have a single PCI slot here, riser, and then we have the normal things that you'd expect in a workstation, except we have these dual power supply options. And what's interesting about this is they're redundant or aggregate. What that means is the redundant power supplies, they're 650 watt power supplies, and they work as you expect, which is to say that if one fails, the other one takes over and you could swap them out. But most of the time, workstations, part of the power besides the CPU is the graphics card, having some higher end RTX 4000 or 6000 card in there, and you need more than 650 watts for that. So you can gang them, aggregate them together, and simple addition, 650 plus 650, 1300 watts of power, which pretty much gets you to an Z4 desktop workstation class system, but in one new rack. And that's pretty cool. We also have the ability to talk to the hardware in here from our ZCentral Connect solution, which I'll show you here in a moment. And that's going to tell you things about the health of the system, whether it was able to boot or not, if it got stuck, and it'll also tell you the health of the power supplies and what mode they're in. One of the things I wanted to point out is we did win an engineering Emmy, which happens to be here. And that was awarded to us last October for specifically from the media and entertainment industry, but it really reflects all the industries that we've helped for our ZCentral Remote Boost product and how it's been able to keep the workflow going regardless of the field that somebody's in. As long as they need remote compute, the horsepower workstation, this has been the solution to get them there. So what does this look like from a big picture? Well, you have your endpoint devices. These are the things that are at your home, the things you're remoting from. You're sitting on the couch or sitting in your home office or even on the campus, but it's the remote device. You have your remote compute resources. These could be Z2 minis. These could be the Z4s. These could be, whatever you wished. And in the middle of this, you have our ZCentral Remote Boost. So we are what we call an infrastructure overlay technology at this point. There are gateways that we can work with, but typically most customers are using their VPN and they have the person connect through. And the big thing to remember is we have two design philosophies that guide us. One is keep it simple, and the second is do no harm. And I'll get to the do no harm in a second, but keep it simple means we need to overlay, we need to lay on top of your infrastructure, not put any additional demands, not any special configurations. We just work. And basically from a security standpoint, in terms of logging in, you just need to look at it as the same way if somebody could walk up to that machine and do whatever, whether it's log in, share it, not log in, they don't have access rights. Those are the same things you would have within your normally Windows domain. We haven't changed anything. It's still that same desktop, that same experience if the person could actually walk up to the machine, except we're now remoting them in with our high-speed software solution. And that lets that administration of it doesn't really change because it's what you would normally do anyway if everybody was on campus. The HP ZCentral Connect part, that's the librarian I was talking about. So ZCentral Remote Boost point-to-point is very simple. It takes about less than 5 minutes to install both the receiver, that's the part on the endpoint device, and the sender. And as long as the machines can see each other on the network, it'll work out of the box. You just type it in the machine name or the IP address, you're good to go. I'll show you that in a second. But as you get more and more systems on there, you need a management. Great, now we need people to connect to different machines or assign a machine or remotely, because you're not actually moving the people around, you're moving the systems or the ones that they can access around. So letting the people be remote and centralizing the compute. So the HP ZCentral Connect is like a librarian that you have a library card. You walk in there, you hand them the card, your ID card, and it tells you what you have rights to. And you have rights to the engineering reference books that are behind the librarian. So they grab one, hand it to you. You go away, you open it up, you look in there, you do what you need to do, you close it back up, check it back in, and out you go. All based on ID. So same idea, except it is using Active Directory and the user accounts and groups that you've set to say, hey, this group of users can access this group of machines. and with various controls for doing that and facilitating that, so it's pretty seamless for the end user. And again, I'll show you what that looks like here in just a moment, so you can get a feeling for the experience. So ZCentral Remote Boost. The really cool thing about this, it's license free with all Z hardware. And what I mean by that is if you install the Remote Boost sender, this is the part that goes on the workstation or the compute that you need to get to that's been centralized. It just installs. It doesn't ask for a license. It doesn't do anything other than just install, ready to run. This works on any Z system that's built since 2011, and it also works on ZBooks. So any of those things have the right to the software immediately. You could download it today if you have a Z system, install it, you're good to go. The receiver side, the part that's at home, even for person working on the couch or from their office, there's no license for it. You just download it and install it because, of course, it's only good for connecting to the sender. We support Windows and Linux on the sender side, that being the compute that's remoted, and then we support Windows, Mac OS, and Linux on the receiver side. So you can have a MacBook connect to a Windows system and have people collaborate with that. And we got a couple features to help that be a better experience because you have different at a baseline aspect ratios when you're dealing with the display on a Mac and display on any PC, and you want to be able to have both of those folks to have a good experience should that be the cross section of the folks working on this. What that looks like is something we call dynamic resizing. It's a little easier to explain, but basically you think of it to explain in a demo, but think of it as a high-end Blu-ray player, the way it will scale up a DVD. If you have an old DVD, scale it up to Blu-ray for your 4K display. TV, that's the same thing we're doing. So we're scaling pixels up and down as you need them. That's all on the receiver side. And what's important about that is it doesn't interfere with the sender, that being the part, the remote compute. And this gets back to the keep it simple part and the do no harm. When you resize things in some other remoting solutions, it will cause what's called context changes, which is basically a resolution change, screen size. That's bad if you're in the middle of a program that's rendering or a high-end engineering program and all of a sudden it's trying to redraw everything because it has more or less pixels to work with. Lots of time drivers crash. You don't want to have those kind of context changes, and also when somebody else connects. So we don't. Our resizing is only on the receiver side, so there's nothing happens to the sender. It has no idea that you're adjusting the pixels for your best personal experience. It's just sending them out. The other thing is we work at a very low level with something called frame buffer that's on the graphics cards, and that allows us to be below most awareness of the software. So whatever driver you would normally qualify for within your company or that you have qualified is going to work fine. Not to mention, because we're HP and these are workstations, we've already qualified the workstations to work with the given software that's part of that. And in that mix is our own software being qualified with that. So we know it's all going to play nice together, especially for Autodesk type products. The other thing we have is HP Velocity. And HP Velocity is basically the technology that we have that takes the communication that's being used for the pixels, and it does something akin to RAID striping, but it's with IP packets, if you will. And it provides for, helps remove latency and redundancy. So if there's packet loss or drops for information that's being communicated, it helps hide that from the user by having this technology that is putting redundant and duplicate information on a side channel to try to help out. So let's take a quick look at what we have for ZCentral Connect. And excuse me, I need to take just a quick drink here. My throat's getting dry. Sorry about that. All right. So ZCentral Connect is our librarian, if you will. There's a client, there's an agent, and that's just basically, a way of thinking about that. And they all talk to a centralized Connect manager that can be installed. It overlays Windows Server OS or Windows 10 Pro. So we're not requiring a complete system build. It's just a service that either runs on a Windows 10 machine or Windows Server OS and connects to your Active Directory. And that's important for having it just be easy to work with. And of course, it'll work for Windows and Linux for managing those senders, and then it'll also work with Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. Not sure it's not listed there for our client side. So it's kind of the second step. You first get the remote boost point-to-point connect working. Wow, this is great. Now it's getting hard to manage. But the other thing that this brings, besides that management, besides that librarian potential, is something we call centralized power and off. But really what's important about this is we're using something called AMT that's part of the Intel vPro line. And that's something that comes with most Z workstations. And it's there. If you choose to provision it within your system, you have free out-of-band power control with our Connect product. And in fact, if you just want to do the power control by loading the manager, that doesn't require a license for just using that to do the power control from an admin point of view. And it's complete out-of-band. It's the same as pressing the power button on and off. With this Intel vPro technology AMT. And it also gives us some other things about what I was talking about up here about the health of the systems for hanging during the boot or OS hang. So the system has a problem. One of the things I forgot to mention with Remote Boost 2 and in all of this, well, I'm talking primarily about HP Z systems because obviously we're HP and we have the ability to supply both what you have at home, whether it's a thin client or a laptop, what have you, to the high-end workstation. We also work with any PC on the sender side or on the compute that's been remoted side, and that we do have a license that we sell for that. What's cool about that is about half our user base is paid licenses, whether it's cloud or virtual machines or physical metal hardware, either that are kit built by for reasons or that are competitors. We don't care. It's software, and it just whether it's a Z license-free license or somebody that's purchased it, we're going to work with it and support it just the same. Now, one of the things that's cool as I get to talk to you folks for the first time about is the new May update that we have coming. And this is something that has kind of been what we view as kind of a tipping point for our ZCentral Connect product, and specifically its scheduling. Why this is important is you'll see that we have reference books, if you will, those pool of computers, but it would be nice to be able to schedule that at a given time when you're available, the system's going to be available. And that wasn't something that we had up until the May update that we're going to have next month. And that's going to give you a person the ability to schedule a machine on their own if you so choose. It's going to have a scheduler role, which is to say you could have somebody designated as a scheduler for a group of people or for a training session. They can schedule machines for other people. And then all of that works to make sure the machines are available as the sessions butt up to each other, so somebody could check something out for hours or days, and the system all manages that, and you can see what's going on. It also has this new admin forceful logout that has been asked for. So basically what that does is, as an admin from the admin screen, and I'll show you that in a second, it basically says you can remotely kick a user off a machine. And that's also been asked for at a base level. You can see, in this case, Lucas was logged in, and you're going to tell Lucas, your session's over, you need to go. And again, that's a choice that you can have for implementing it. And then we also have improved Wacom support. One of the things to point out too is this is a preview experience, what we're calling for the scheduling tool. Typically what we do is we have, if we do a preview experience, the next rev it becomes a fully released experience. And that's what happened here with the Wacom tablet support. Our couple months ago, we had our preview release. We've gotten lots of great feedback, tuned and refined a little bit. And now we are releasing it as a full phase 1 feature set. And basically it gives you some of the best Wacom, and that's the pressure sensitive part for if you happen to have folks who are doing drawings or need that kind of finesse. That's part now of our Remote Boost software and available just for the upgrade. All right, so with that, it's really just pulling it all together. We'll get to the demos, and once again, it's about centralizing the work and making sure that you have the ability to remote the compute. Now, the other thing is, if you need to get in touch or look at the products, and I'm sure this will be shared also, is just look at hp.com/ZCentral, Google HP ZCentral, or you can also email the ZCentral team at zcentral@hp.com. So with that, I will pause for any questions, and we will also go into the demo part of this. And I don't see any questions, so we will go forward from that. Great. So this is the Connect Admin screen that I mentioned. And what we have here are the pools of systems. So, excuse me, the hosts. So these are all the books you will, if I have in the library, these different systems to do different things. And I can pick them and group them, and it tells me what status they're in. That power management thing I mentioned, if I click on power management, if I clicked on power off, it's going to shut every machine off that I just checked that has the AMT vPro enabled. They're going to go completely powered down. The good news is I can actually power them back up by power on. And that is something that is very powerful. So somebody didn't actually have to touch the machine if it's off. You can do this remotely with the AMT vPro enabled. The pools are really just about having a grouping of hosts, which is to say the books in the library that I put together, and matching them up with either a security group or a user. And the way to think about this is just an introductory system. You have compute that needs users to be useful, and you have users that need compute to be useful. So this gets them together and matches them up sort of like criteria that's based on the admin deciding who needs to see what, just like they would do normally out of an Active Directory. So any Active Directory groups you have that already identify an engineering group or a marketing group or what have you, or a project group for a specific other thing, that's going to translate directly over to here for how you'd like to manage those machines.
Clifton, sorry, the
yes.
wrap-up starts in main stage in 1 minute. So.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't realize we were running a little bit long. Yeah. So, I guess I won't be able, sorry about that. I guess we won't be able to get to the actual demo part for the Remote Boost. Yeah. I thought we had a little bit more time than that. So, I guess the short of it is, on the admin side, just to finish with the user side, it's really the whole point of all of this is to be able to show you the machines, get somebody to it where the user just had to go to that. It chooses the host for them, and they're basically able to go to this and log in for a remote experience. And hopefully there's some additional interest in here. We'd love to have a chance to show you some of the additional detail with this in the future, and be able to give you a little bit more deep dive demo. With that, if we've only got a couple of the minute left, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to the team there.
Yeah, now the wrap up session starts. Right, it's 12:25 here. So.
Okay. Well, thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.